It's the realest.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your guy Realistic, and welcome to my tutorial vault. That's right, I'm gonna start grabbing some of my most classic tutorials over the years out of the vault and re-releasing them. That way y'all can enjoy, get your mixing and mastering skills back up. So if you find any of the information useful, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. That way this keeps showing up in your feed, and sit back and enjoy the content. All right, so now we've gotten a lot of this lingo, we got a lot of this jargon figured out, we know what the parameters do. So now let's really talk about the LUFS meter. We had talked about it and touched on it earlier. So LUFS is a standard that was used in the broadcast community for the longest time, like TV shows, and they really started to use it more or less because, yeah, you ever watch a TV show and you got the volume set right, you're enjoying it, it sounds pleasing, and then all of a sudden a commercial comes on and boom, it's just loud as it's just super crazy loud, and it's kind of disrupting. And so what they had did was they set these guidelines to say, well, now we're only going to allow the maximum loudness that you can put this at a particular LUF. And the thing why they use the LUFS meter is because the LUFS meter versus a RMS or a peak meter or a VU meter, the LUFS meter can really show you the overall loudness of, how it's integrated and how the overall loudness of the track is from start to finish, and what the really perceived volume level of loudness is. It does a really good job of letting you know what that perceived loudness is. So they had set that regulation into place to kind of, allow for people to not make it quite as loud. Obviously, companies and people that make commercials still break that rule because we're still going through that issue where it's louder, but those are what the guidelines are for. Now, when streaming became a lot more popular, like Spotify and Apple Music and Tidal and all that, the streaming and music industry world decided to adapt the LUFS meter as well. It stands for loudness units full scale. So it kind of gives you the full scale of the unit of loudness that we're working with. And so now it's the standard that we have when it comes to music. Now, you're going to see a lot of online articles, right? That, when you look up and people give you suggestions of what it is, they're like, oh, well, streaming requires that it's at -14. And if it's louder than -14, like it's -10, they're going to turn it down to -14. And if it's lower than -14, like at -20, they're going to turn it up to bring it to -14. That way, all the songs are the same. However, if you've ever actually uploaded a song at -14 on a streaming platform and played it against a famous song or a mainstream song or a song that is louder at -8, you're going to notice your song is not very loud and it's not really going to have that impact. So I would disregard that little standard that we hear of -14 when submitting to streaming. I promise you, if you submit it to negative streaming, your song is going to be significantly quieter than the rest of the songs on there. So like I was saying before in an earlier video when we were talking about the output and input, I usually try to aim for -8 or -9 for the LUFS. That's kind of the standard that they do for CD, right? -8, -9 is kind of what they do, but I still try to reach for that for streaming. That way, when it hits streaming, it does come through louder. And for me, I actually lean more towards the louder side because I know a lot of times my clients and the people that I work with, they're going to want the loudest possible one. So I just, I try to get the master to sound as good as I can, or the mix, depending on what my role is in this project. I try to get that to be at a point where I can raise it up to about -8. -9, I think is the lowest that I would go. That's the quietest that I would go. But I still do try to push for -8. And if the song allows me to, I'll even see if I can get it up to -5 or 6, which is crazy, especially from somebody who really appreciates quality and really does appreciate dynamics and stuff like that. You wouldn't think that I would try to achieve that type of loudness. However, I am an engineer in the modern world. I've worked with a lot of modern artists, some artists that you may even know and love. And so I've kind of accepted and understood that times are changing, and the loudness for a lot of people is more important than the quality. So I try to bring it as loud as I can without sacrificing the actual quality. Now, when would I choose between a -5 or -8 or 9? There's a lot going on in the track, lots of layers, kick drum, bass, lots of vocals, lots of instruments going on.
I'm probably going to lean more towards the -8, -9, right? I don't want to risk doing that because if there's more tracks and there's more low end information and just overall layers, there's more of a risk and an opportunity to cause some type of distortion or aliasing or clipping or crackling or hissing or just artifacts that we don't want in there. Now, if it's a like lighter song, like let's think about a song like "Vibes" by the Baby, right? There's not really much going on in that, and those particular songs work really well for expanding the limiter because there's just an 808, basically bass. There's not a kick drum in there, so the low end information is really just there's just one instrument taking up the low end information, so that gives me more of an opportunity to do that. And then you think about a record like Vibes, right? It's just an 808, a clap, a hi-hat. I think there's like a marimba or some type of like flute. I think it's a flute, and there might be some type of like little like arpeggiated like guitar or something in the background, right? Just it's really light. There's like 3 or 4 drums going on. There's an 808. There's maybe 2 instrument layers, and then the Baby's really just got his lead vocals, and for the chorus I think they stacked it a little bit, so there's not really too much going on, and that record allows you to push it a little bit higher, right? Because you have that ability. Another time that you may have an opportunity to bring it up to 5 or 6 dB LUFS is if you're working with somebody who's like a really, really great mixing engineer. I'm talking like, really, really professional, and they give you a really nice clean mix that's really balanced and there's not a lot of frequency clashing and stuff like that. And we'll give you an opportunity to increase it. But I always say start to 8 or 9, and if you're up for it, maybe try to see if you can get away with 5 or 6. Most times you'll find that you cannot get away with putting it that loud, but if you can, see if it's working. It's at least worth trying to go for that amount. But anyways, that is how the LUFS meter works. Let me go ahead and show you kind of what I'm talking about here as far as where the quality is. Let's bring this down so we get where that streaming standard is, right? That BS streaming standard that doesn't really exist. We'll bring it down so we'll get an average of -14. So I pay attention here, and then the gain's going to be different each time because it all depends on the input and everything else that's going on. So, don't pay attention to, I always put it at 4, I always put it at 8. Just, bring this up until you get to the level that you want to be at.
No rush, no worries, no problem. So fresh, so fly, so poppin', moving quick, fast, baby, hold on. A lot of pain, I know you wanna close the door on. You paint the bright sky like a Van Gogh and play my heartstrings like a banjo.
So that's kind of the streaming standard. However, I don't think that is going to be loud enough, but we hear that the quality is still pretty good. Now let's try to bring this up closer to -8 or 9 LUFS, right?
Moving quick, fast, baby, hold on. A lot of pain, I know you wanna close the door on. You paint the bright sky like
So we're getting close to that -9. We could even try to enhance this a little bit more. If I were to do that, I would use something like a maximizer before the limiter just to kind of give me that a little bit here. So I got this little ozone plug in here, and I got just 0.1 of a ceiling. I don't want to bring it all the way down to 1. I'm going to be a little bit more of a laid back approach for this since it's so early on in the chain, and I'm not already trying to set like a crazy ceiling, but I want to have a little bit. I don't want it at 0. I do want a little bit of a safety net, and I just kind of bring this up to -2. So let's go ahead and check out what this will look like and sound like now that we have a little bit of an easier load. That way I don't have to crank this gain up to like 12, right? I want to be a little bit lighter. I even don't like to bring it up to 10, but on this particular track, I think we do got to bring it up about that much.
moving quick, fast, baby, hold on. A lot of pain, I know you wanna close the door on. You paint the bright sky like a Van Gogh and play my heartstrings like a banjo. Shots, baby, shots like you're using up the ammo. Ain't a show, but I'm loving what you channel. Heart on a mission, put the car to ignition. I was lovesick, baby, now I'm on to a mission. Like a whole new revision, you a whole new division. I could tell you set your mind and then you go and you get it. All the lights in the city, yeah, they nice and they pretty, but they don't shine quite like you, baby, really. Do you like, do you feel me? Cause I want you the most. Red hot sunset as we drive through the coast singing.
So you can hear we made some changes there. I ended up bringing this up to -3. That did allow us to get up to that -8, -9. I feel like we didn't lose much quality. If you do want to check the quality, what I suggest is just collapsing to mono to make sure that it doesn't affect the overall sound. So let's go ahead and do that. Normally I do that right on my interface, but if I do that on my interface, you're actually not going to hear the final result. So what I'll do is I'll pull up this free plugin called Manipulator, and that will just clap the whole session to mono.
No rush, no worries, no problem. So fresh, so fly, so poppin'. Moving quick, fast, baby, hold on. A lot of pain, I know you.
Yeah, when we went to mono, I feel like we didn't have any type of like really bad like aliasing or distortion or clipping or anything. You hear the vocals a little distorted, but the mix engineer did that on purpose. They overdrove the preamp on a Neve 1073 on purpose to kind of give it a like classic distorted tape compression sound. So we do hear that, but I feel like even though the vocal is distorted on purpose, even bringing it up this loud collapse into mono, we're still not running into some of those issues that we would worry about. Now let's go ahead and actually bring this up. See how loud that we can actually get this. Let's bring this up and see if we can get this up to, you know, negative 5 or 6 and see what it sounds like. I have a feeling it's not going to sound that great.
No rush, no worries, no problem. So fresh, so fly, so poppin'. Moving quick, fast, baby, hold on. A lot of pain, I know you wanna close the door on. You paint the bright sky like a Van Gogh and play my heartstrings like a banjo. Shots, baby, shots like you're using up the ammo. Ain't a show, but I'm loving what you channel. Heart on a mission, put the car to ignition. I was lovesick.
Yeah, so hearing that back, I think that's going to be too loud for a track like this because we got so much going on. We got kick, we got bass going on, we got keys going on, hi-hats, there's different layers, there's things going on with the vocals, there's ad-libs, there's reverb. There's way too much going on to really try to get away with going that loud. And I even noticed some of the frequencies hurt a little bit more on the ears. It just felt like it was too much. So, you know, again, I would probably back this down to just kind of stick with between that 8 or 9. It's still going to give you the ability to compete with what's going on with most of the stuff on there. But yeah, that's how the LUFS meter works, and I really do encourage you to use that. You know, we got a few where we got short term where that just kind of shows you what the LUFS value is kind of at that current moment, you know, within a few milliseconds apart. And if we switch to integrated, you're going to see that the number is going to change less. But what this is going to do is this is going to give you the average of the overall LUFS from when you first played it to, you know, where the current moment is. And so that can give you an overall. And what I like to do is, as I'm kind of figuring stuff out, I like to have it at short term, kind of figure out where I want it to be so I can see those sudden changes. And then what I'll do is once I get these LUFS figured out, I'll switch to integrated and I'll go back to my EQing and saturation and stuff like that. So that way, as I'm kind of keeping my limiter open, I can see, okay, I got pretty much an average at -9. That's where I want to be with these sounds. So yeah, again, I encourage you to use the LUFS meter, and this is how limiters work in a basic sense.
Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this tutorial. If you found it useful, be sure to like and subscribe because it does help the channel grow. When you like a video, it tells YouTube that you liked it and maybe other people will like it as well. And also be sure to check out my online mixing and mastering courses, the art of beat mixing, the art of vocal mixing, and the art of mastering, all available now. And if this video was helpful and you're looking for other videos, you can watch a video here, here, and here. All right, until next time, y'all.